Okay. Well, hello. Today's, I guess, Saturday, March the 28th, which would be the day after our normal bee meeting. And I'm Bob Blackwell with Cabarrus Beekeepers. Mark Smith with the Cabarrus Beekeepers. Yep. He's our program director. And again, this is a great idea, I think, since we can't meet in person at this time. Hope everybody's doing well.
Uh-oh, Bob. We're violating our 6 foot.
Oh, we're too close.
Don't touch me.
Don't breathe on me. That's right. But this time of year is kind of always exciting. Beekeepers get excited. Things are starting to bloom. We've made it through the winter now, and things are really picking up. Right here on the porch even, we got a whole bunch of what some people would call carpenter bees, which most people see as a nuisance. I do not. Again, they're good pollinators too, and I think they're pretty entertaining to watch them. But anyway, not having a bee meeting, we decided to maybe do a little short few minutes doing a hive and flower report.
Sounds good.
This time of year it's time to be getting in your hives, I mean, no doubt, and do a little bit of management. You can go a long way management this time of year as far as making honey. Of course, we're not making honey quite right yet, but colonies are really building up.
Yep.
And so.
Well, I actually had to add some supers today.
Added supers. Good plan.
Yeah, that
Good
yard
plan.
I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
Down in Ridgecrest. I actually had to add some more, so I don't know what they're working. And
again, I think it's a good idea this time of year to give them room. Okay. Now, whether that room is another brood box, or it's a super, to give them some room, because again, as the population builds up at night, those bees got to be somewhere. See, and if you crowd that brood nest with a lot of what I call house bees, that just encourages them to swarm that much more. Of course, the bees in the process of swarming now, and that's one of the things you want to check for. I think you've been playing with swarms this morning even.
Yeah. I had one of my out yards down in the Ridgecrest area. I actually watched 2 swarms fly into the apiary. Caught one of them, but yeah, it's crazy.
Well, like I was telling you earlier, my experience over the years, bees draw bees.
Yep.
If you got a bee yard, it will draw other bees to them. Bees know where bees are, and it will draw bees. I've seen it happen any number of times. And it's unexplainable. Who knows where they came from? You'll never know.
That's true.
But from your description of the queen you saw, I'm going to have to think that somebody lost a $30 queen they bought last year.
Man.
Thank
you.
Have at it. But again, bees are definitely swarming this time of year. The old rule, Mark, used to be red buds.
Yep.
When you see the red buds blooming, the bees are going to start swarming.
Yep.
And again, in your hives, you should be seeing a lot more drones.
Yep.
When you start seeing a lot more drones, that's an indication the bees may be thinking about swarming, especially if that brood nest starts getting crowded.
Yep.
That brood nest getting crowded, and the amount of cat brood. When the amount of cat brood starts really increasing, and they tell us scientifically about 60%. When the total population of the hive, 60% of that total population is in cat brood. Of course, at that point, all the work's done. Just a matter of waiting for time.
That's true.
Okay? And so the colonies made the investment in it, and so they know that. And so they say, well, when that brood emerges, we're going to be too crowded. So we need to do something about it. So, and of course, colonies want to make more colonies on the reproduction type scale. And so those colonies now are thinking about swarming.
Yeah.
And so at times, though, you got to be careful. Of course, I'll tell you in a heartbeat, that if I see queen cells, it gets my attention, because I do not want them bees to leave. Now, and again, how you manage your bees can make a difference there. I may take that frame and actually just move one frame with a good queen cell or 2 on it to something like a queen castle, and let them raise that queen.
Yep.
Just one frame of bees is enough to support her, because technically all the work's done. She's capped cell. And that's a good way to get another queen and actually start another colony. They will build up amazingly fast by doing that. And so you can actually build up a colony. So it's a form of split, really. But you got to be a little careful on this, because here's how it goes. How do you know that your colony wasn't the colony that your bees came from? Okay? And so that queen is not there now. Now, you go in that colony this afternoon or in the morning, tomorrow, and guess what you find? All of a sudden you find queen cells. All over the place you find queen cells. And your first intention is, I'm not going to let them swarm, and I'll start cutting cells. The problem with that is, you're not a good judge of the bee population.
Yeah.
And you can't look at that colony and tell you it's swarmed or not.
Yeah.
Most time, my experience has been beekeepers cannot tell if a colony is swarmed by looking at the number of bees.
Yeah.
You just can't tell. You think you'd know there's half of them missing, but you can't.
Yeah.
So now, if you cut all the cells out, guess what happens then?
It's queenless.
It's queenless. Exactly, it's queenless. And that happens more than you think. So be cautious before you start cutting cells out. Number one, to know that you have a queen in that colony.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a queen, you can cut cells out.
Yeah. And that's one reason why I mark all my queens. If I go in there and I see a queen that's not marked, where'd you come from? Where's my marked queen? And typically this time of year, and I actually did it last weekend, if I go into a box and see swarm cells, first thing I look for is my old queen.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and do the swarm for him.
Mm-hmm.
Put her in a nuke,
Mm-hmm.
2 shakes of bees, and then let the swarm cells go ahead and emerge.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And those swarm cells make good queens.
Oh, yeah.
So those are good quality cells. The bees have taken their time to do a good job. So that's a good way to do it. But you got to be cautious about just cutting every cell you see out.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to go queenless. Now, and the funny thing about swarm cells, which are a little different than supersedure cells, most of the time bees will not supersede this time of year. It's a little bit later, like another month from now, you start seeing some supersedures because those queens are about to lay themselves out. Okay, and it's common on a swarm after you've hived a swarm, and that swarm is building back up a little bit. It's gone a month or two.
Yeah.
It's common then for the bees to take their time and raise a supersedure to replace that swarm queen because she's pretty well laid herself out, and they know it, so they're going ahead and do a better queen. But you're a poor judge of that when you come looking at them. I mean, you can't hardly tell. So anytime before you cut cells, and this is supersedure cells or swarm cells, personally I do not cut supersedure cells. The cells that's up in the frame, up in the middle part of the frame where the other brood is, I don't cut them. I only cut swarm cells, which will be along the bottom and around the outside edge mostly. Now if you got holes somewhere in there, you better watch for that one, because they'll sneak one. Cutting cells, if you miss one cell, what happens to you? They gone, they swarm. That's all it took.
See, I play it super safe. I don't even cut cells, at all. That's one reason why I do it the way I do it. Just let them go ahead and requeen. If I've got 4 frames with swarm cells on it, I'll leave one frame, and there's some more splits I can do. I'll just take those frames and just put them in nukes and let them do their thing.
And those splits, anytime you do a split, you always have to keep in the back of your mind, you always can rejoin those bees together. So you can combine bees. So as easy as you can split, you can combine bees. So it's not a big thing for the future if you see you need to combine them. So that's a good plan, it's a good management plan. But you need to keep your bees in the hive if you're going to make honey.
That's true.
It's the more bees you can keep in that hive, the stronger that hive is, population-wise, the more honey you'll make in that hive. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a straight line proportion. You would think straight line proportion. It's not. It's a real parabolic curve, and that thing really jumps on up. So huge difference between a colony with like 15,000 bees in it and one that's pushing 50 or 60,000 bees. Huge difference in the amount of honey they'll make.
Yeah.
Because you just got more workers to do it. That makes a lot of sense. Drones this time of year, I don't worry about them. Years ago, I know people used to worry about them. You see drone traps advertised and all kinds of stuff at the front of the hive. And you were just frustrating yourself for no reason. The bee's not going to make a certain percentage of drones anyway, so let them have them. That's a colony's way to move their genes into the next population of bees. And that's a natural thing. It should happen. And again, we need drones out in these drone concentration areas to make these young queens anyway, so let the drones be. Don't worry about them. They're not harmful for the colony. They more help than they are harm, I think.
That's true.
So I don't worry about them personally. But it's a good time of year right now. The weather's breaking, and so if you wanted to do some checkerboarding in a hive, it's a good time to do that. Because that brood nest is going to get congested, and as they run out of room in that brood nest, and that queen didn't have no way to move to lay, that's when they're going to be more tempted to swarm. Especially if we happen to get a day or two of rain, straight rain all day. I'm talking about a shower. I'm talking about all day night rain. Those bees are in there all hemmed up in that hive. They're getting impatient, and guess what they're thinking? They're thinking, we're too crowded, half of us need to leave. And that's when they'll start pulling cells.
And I think that's one reason why there's so many bees swarming today, is because earlier in the week we had a lot of rain.
That's right.
Bees couldn't
Kept
get
them
out.
confined.
Right.
Yep.
And then today, we're what, 85 degrees?
Yep.
It shot right to 85
Yep.
degrees and not a cloud in the sky.
Yep. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah,
And again, it's the type of day the bees are looking for to swarm.
that's right.
Now, don't think that that cell has to emerge before your bees swarm.
Yep.
That's not true. Once that cell is capped, your bees are apt to swarm when the conditions are good, like today.
Yeah.
So the colony it come from may right now just have a capped cell. Well, again, if you go in there and cut all the cells out, again, bad plan, queenless.
That's a bad plan.
So that's just kind of how that works. So be sure you see a queen before you start cutting cells out.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, if you cut cells out, you better look at every frame, both sides.
That's right.
Because if you miss one, they're still going to swarm. Okay. Now, even after you cut cells out, you took your time. You can't be in a hurry. If you're in a rush, don't do it. Take your time. Look at every one. Okay. Now, if you got a whole handful of bees gathered up somewhere, you better brush them off a little bit or shake them off lightly and see if they're not covering up a cell. I've seen them do that before.
Oh, yeah.
They'll try to hide them for you. I think they catch on to what you're doing, to be honest.
Yep.
But if you miss one, you've wasted your time. Now, once you've cut cells, you got them all. They won't swarm. They will not swarm. Okay? They may want to, but they won't swarm.
Yeah.
But what do they do immediately? They start replacing those cells with new cells. They start building more cells. Okay? And again, so what you've done is bought yourself time. You didn't keep them from swarming. You just bought yourself time. And so the maximum, you bought yourself about 10 days.
Yeah. You still need to do something.
You got to do something. Yeah. You got to do something. And again, usually at that time, well, I'll put a super on top. Usually that will not be enough.
Yeah.
That will not be enough. I encourage putting super on and give them some room to be there and to store some nectar coming in. Don't crowd them from that standpoint. But that will not prevent swarming at this point once they decide to swarm.
Yeah. Once they've decided if they want to fly,
It's hard to do it.
It's hard to change
Yep.
their mind.
Yep.
So
Now I have taken brood frames out, capped brood frames, again, totally capped, and moved them up, even above my honey supers. But I have a honey super or two on, and just set an extra brood box up there, put a queen excluder on top of the honey supers.
Yeah.
I'd already have one under them, of course, to keep the queen out of that, but then put one on top and put those capped brood frames up above, right in the center of that box, just to give them time to emerge. Okay, now when you do that, the only caution is there's going to be some drones. There's going to be some drones on the edges of that brood nest. And so those drones will stop up that queen excluder.
they sure will.
They'll stop it up in a heartbeat. So they can't get through it. They're too fat. They can't get through it. And they'll die on top of it and stop it up. So you need an upper entrance. Okay, now you can take the lid, jar the lid up a little bit, or just the entrance at top. Be sure that's where the bees can find it. Where to turn it down, the bees can actually find it, to give those drones a way out of that upper brood box, and it'll be fine. But what happens by doing that, the frames you put back in could be just foundation, which is a good way to draw foundation this time of year. Or it could be, empty frames, empty comb, which again gives room for the queen to lay. So you've taken away the congestion of that brood nest, because they don't recognize it way up there, above those supers. But you still are keeping all your bees, shall we say. That's a good management plan, I think, to do that. But checkerboarding, even with just simple checkerboarding in a single brood box, those center frames is slam capped full of bees, move them towards the outside. Those outside frames will always be the ones that's less utilized.
Right.
So move them to the middle, okay? And so one's okay, but two's probably even better.
Yeah.
So I'd have brood, maybe a frame that doesn't have anything on it, but maybe just comb, empty comb, maybe another brood frame, maybe another one with this,
Yeah.
drawn
And
comb.
And I had to do it. I'm managing single deeps too, and that's something I had to do today, was move some stuff around. Well, what I did notice is they're starting some of that nectar in the brood box. They're moving it up, making room, for her to lay. So, yeah, it's a great time of year.
And you can say, honey itself hardly ever bounds the brood nest up.
Yeah.
If there's room above them,
Yeah.
because they will move it up.
Yeah.
They will move it up.
Yeah.
They'll get it out of their way. Like I say, it's an exciting time right now, beekeeping wise. This is our favorite season right now.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Over the next month is the
right.
favorite time.
So what you seeing bloom, Bob?
Okay, on the blooms, I'm seeing more and more stuff blooming. The peach trees around here, anyway, have just about finished.
Yeah.
Okay, bees are working the peaches some, but they're about finished. The pear trees, I see some still blooming, but there's others that's pretty well finished.
Right.
Okay, the plums, a lot of plums are blooming right now. And again, I'm seeing them kind of all stages, but the plums are definitely blooming. And again, bees work them easily. I see a lot of wild plums blooming right now.
Yeah.
And again, it's a good source. Bees like them. The red buds, like we mentioned before, the red buds are blooming.
They're blooming everywhere.
Bees will work red buds, even though personally, I've looked at a lot of red buds, and it's hard to see bees on them.
Huh.
Makes me wonder what time of day. But again, all the literature says bees work red buds.
Yeah.
And I know bees always kind of swarm the same time red buds are blooming, which I think there's some correlation there, to be honest.
Right.
But it's hard for me to go and watch the flowers and see bees come to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the most attractive thing for them, to be honest.
That's true.
Right now, there's a lot of dandelion blooming, a whole lot of dandelion. We've got real good ground moisture. The ground's wet.
Yeah.
And so that high ground moisture and a little bit of sunshine now has really got the dandelions going. At least the ones you had mowed over.
Right. Well, something I noticed earlier in the week is the fields there around Mom's house got a lot of hairy vetch group coming up in it, and they're actually starting to work that a little bit. So
They would definitely work vetch. Again, sometimes I don't know it's one of their favorites.
No.
But they'll work it.
yeah,
I have seen a little bit of Dutch clover blooming.
yeah,
The Ladonna clover typically is a taller, variety of white clover there. Haven't seen any of it blooming yet, but I've seen some of the smaller growing, what I call Dutch clovers blooming, and some isolated patches. Of course, bees work that real well. And within another week or two, even the hayfield out here, it's got a lot of crimson clover in it.
yeah.
Okay, now, it's not blooming yet, but it's not but about a week to maybe at the most 2 weeks away from blooming.
Yeah.
And that is one of their favorites. They'll tear it up. I mean, and again, they produce a lot of honey from it.
Did you mention the hollies?
The hollies, so it's a lot of different kinds of hollies.
Yeah.
Okay,
What's the ones they plant on the corner of the houses?
talking about Burfordite.
Oh man, they plant on the corner of houses in housing developments. Can't remember. What is the name of them hollies? But anyway, I saw out mowing, doing my rounds this week. Bees just tearing them up.
Hollies bloom over a longer period of time than what
Yeah.
we recognize.
Yeah.
Some of the early ones are starting to bloom now.
Yeah.
Okay, there's Helena hollies.
Yeah.
They're starting to bloom now, but some of the old Burfordites won't bloom for another while longer.
Yeah.
Like people used to make hedges with.
Right.
That's a good honey plant. All the hollies are good honey plants. Every one of them.
Yeah.
To see some won't bloom for another month and a half yet. So it's a wide variety on that. I know the regular American, old-time American holly's not blooming yet.
Yeah.
But I've had people call me before this time of year when they'd have a little holly bush beside the steps, where they're walking by.
Right.
And they say, "There's a swarm of bees here." Well, guess what? Well, not a swarm of bees. The bees were working that holly bush, and they was working it so intensely, the bees were making the buzzing sound. The people heard the bees and thought there was a swarm of bees in the bush, and the bees were just working the flowers. It is crazy. I have seen some jasmine blooming, Carolina jasmine, the little yellow cow. Again, they are beautiful plant. People plant them as ornamentals, but they're not too good for bees. Now, bees will work them, but here's how that works. The nectar on it is actually poisonous to brood. Okay, and so if that's the only source your bees are feeding the brood, you can get brood damage. You can get brood damage, and it's real similar to what they used to call blue can't even say it hardly, blue brood, but that was more prevalent down east, and it bores down to the south of us, a lot further south, southern South Carolina and into Georgia. See a lot more of that, and that comes from the tie. Now I've seen a few of them around. I know there's several in Concord, big ones, that have been planted for ornamentals, and they're pretty when they bloom. The bees will work them, but again, the nectar will kill brood.
Wow.
And so the blue will turn a blue shade. So if you see some blue looking brood and it's damaged, that's probably what it is. It's either the tie or the Carolina jasmine.
Yeah.
But again, pretty ornamentals, but not the best thing to be planting for bee feed as such.
So what will be the as far as big nectar producers as far as trees, what will be our first ones? Tulip poplars?
Tulip poplars will be the first one.
And we're a couple weeks away from that, aren't we?
Yes, we're easily a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
We're a good 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally you'll find an isolated tree that's in a sheltered location that'll be ahead of the others.
Yeah.
But I know years ago I used to keep a calendar and write that down on it a little bit, and they bloom within the same time, within 2 or 3 days every year. Didn't matter what the weather was. Some people say, well, we got an early spring, we got a late spring, it's cold, all that kind of cold snap. Nah, it didn't make much difference, not really. They bloom within 2 or 3 days. You get an isolated tree here and there that would bloom earlier, or one maybe bloom a little bit later if in a little cool, spot. What we used to call a frost pocket, spot.
Yeah.
It bloom a little bit later. But I think the next thing we're going to see to get us excited a little bit, though, as far as seeing bee activities, is the apple trees. See, apples just now starting to leaf a little bit, and they just begin to show a little color.
Well, the one over there at Bob Saford's
Oh,
house,
it bloomed in December.
It bloomed at Christmas, didn't
Oh
it?
yeah, it bloomed in December. Now that tree's messed up. That tree's messed up.
Well, look who owns it.
Yeah, but like I say, I think he talks bad to that tree. But again, it seems to do amazingly well, but it bloomed in December.
Yeah.
So it's out of cycle, bad.
Right.
It has been for years.
Yeah.
We always
Well,
laugh about
he's a little out of cycle
and
too.
maybe that's
so
the case.
So
It matches them.
It
matches
fits in.
them.
Yeah,
It
it's a
matches
good
the
partnership.
situation. Yeah, you got to find your niche in the environment.
That's right.
And
That's
so, but most apple trees are just starting to show a little color right now.
Yeah.
And so over the next week or so, especially this warm heat we got right now, it is going to bring them on.
Yeah.
It's going to bring them on hard. But the next real flow activity we see as far as adding a super or two to be sure your bees have room will be the clovers, the crimson clover.
Yeah.
And then immediately after it, you get the tulip poplars starting to bloom, which are by hands down their favorite.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I got a gut feeling this is going to be an awesome year.
Well, the ingredients are here to make honey.
Yeah.
Because of the ground moisture.
Yeah.
Ground moisture is a big factor on that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we need ground moisture, which we have. We need temperature, which we have. And again, the long-range forecast don't show it to be freezing at no point. It's going to cool down some nights a little bit, but not enough to bother nothing, not enough to bother your bees.
Yeah.
And so that's a good ingredient if we can just avoid a late frost.
Yeah.
A late frost can be bad news on that.
Yeah. Was that it?
As far as I know, that's about it.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, we were just thinking that the membership was really getting stressed out because they're missing our beautiful mugs, at the meetings.
Oh yeah.
But,
that's a stretch.
That's a stretch, ain't it?
Yeah, that's a big
It's a
stretch.
good thing there ain't no clouds in the sky. But just a quick note, as we've changed our schedule because of the coronavirus, obviously the meeting in March was canceled. We really don't know what's going to happen for the meeting in April. We did go ahead and proactively cancel the field day, but stay tuned to the Facebook page, and I'm sure you'll get emails if you don't use Facebook as to how the whole situation is going to affect our meeting in April. So
Let me add one more thing, Mark.
yeah,
The class. See, we lacked 3 classes in the class
Right.
when the county manager said we couldn't use the building because we had too many people to be in the building. He didn't want to take that chance.
Yeah.
So anyway, we lacked 3 classes, being finished. We'll hold those classes, but right now, obviously, we don't know timing.
Yeah.
See, and when we know the timing that we can get back in the extension building, we'll be notifying all the class members that a week or so ahead that we're going to resume those classes. That way, you'll get the last 3 classes, and then we'll reschedule the field day.
sounds good. Sounds good. All right, man.
Good man. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Oh no, we touched.
Oh no, I've got it.
Oh, we got to go sterilize. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you.
Bye.